Is it a good thing if an employer really likes you as a candidate, both before but also during job interviews? In this video, I'm going to share with you a number of scenarios to help you decide this for yourself. First thing I'll talk about here is a guy who was originally scheduled for final interview round. They scheduled it 1 month later because they were very busy. Meanwhile, the guy responsible for the hiring process assigned this candidate to someone else, and that someone else said, "Hey, we won't hire. We decided to no longer proceed with that final interview. If you want, we can reschedule it for another time." And it turns out that candidate were scheduled 2 months after their screening rounds, or more than 2 months after the screening rounds, to have their final interview rounds. What happens here is that most candidates would take this, as offensive. Like, if they don't respect me, they cannot keep their word about these things. Why would I care about this employer, right? What happens is with this candidate is that he actually took this delay of this 2-month delay to his advantage. He actually prepared very well the interview and ultimately passed that job interview, regardless of how unreliable those schedulers were. Okay, this would be the first scenario within the context of likability, if you want. Second scenario I'd like to talk about here is with someone else I coached, and immediately after their final interviews, they got back to me saying, "Hey Dan, thank you very much for your help, but there's less than 2% chance I'm gonna get hired." Like, really, they put a ton of pressure on me. I also, made a few mistakes, so really it's impossible. I didn't perform well. It turns out 3 days later, they sent him an email. Not only he got an offer, but he got up-leveled. Okay, so they put a ton of pressure. They made a really grilling, as it happens with high-performing companies, or at least how it often happens this way, even though it was extremely uncomfortable and demoralizing and deceptive and whatnot. It was a success story in the end, right? There was no likability involved in the process, right? Now, if we go a little bit on the other side of things with the likable approach in these job interviews, I also like to share 2 scenarios here. First scenario is, I often have candidates who tell me, "Dan, they really like me. It's only going to be a formality. I connected well with the hiring manager, with the recruiter. I have a friend on the hiring panel. I have an ex-colleague on the hiring panel." All sorts of combination of these things. In my experience, these people never, ever get job offers. Okay, so it doesn't happen. It never flies, And I'd like to share a second scenario here, and then I'm going to explain to you also why. It also happens to me for candidates to say, after their interviews, after the screening rounds in particular, then I really feel super strong about this interview. I connected very well with the interviewer. I felt, we were on the same page. He really likes me. We had a very casual conversation. What else could go wrong here? Okay, so again, it's a scenario where for some reason these people never advance, not even from the screening rounds to final interview rounds. What's going on here? So what's this point? So what you should know is that likability, so first and foremost, if someone is likable to you, you are also significantly more likely to open up to them in a job interview than before a job interview, right? If you open up to your interviewer and you are having a personal conversation, you will spill the beans with something that you're not particularly skilled with, because if you think you're the ideal candidate, then you probably think the ideal job exists, which I can tell you right from the start, it doesn't, right? So by being likable in a job interview, it's often not to your advantage to open up with these things. Or if you want, let me put it another way. For most of you, who want to have a successful career, or who are getting started in their career, these job interviews and hiring process is as close as you're going to ever get to business, right? So this is why, in my opinion, never ever take anything about a job interview personal, because it's business. It's pure business, as it's as close as you'll ever get to doing business with someone. So long story short, as you've seen, likability can be a very dangerous trap in job interviews. And furthermore, most success stories I had with people are when those experiences are slightly uncomfortable or ambiguous or imperfect. If you want, and in my opinion, you should expect the same from job interviews. So I hope you found this useful, and thank you very much for watching.